a symbolic image of a hallway with fading footsteps behind and soft light at the end, representing the journey through old age and memory. Nobody really tells you what happens after 80. They'll talk about blood pressure, walking slower, forgetting things. But what about the deeper stuff? What about waking up one morning and realizing the world feels quieter? Or the moment you walk into a room and feel invisible? Hi, this is Calm Voice Wellness, and today we're talking about 5 harsh but honest truths that most people only discover after they've crossed that invisible line. 80 years old. Whether you're already there, caring for a parent, or just thinking ahead, this conversation matters. Because aging isn't just about health. It's about identity, purpose, connection, and the courage to keep showing up when the world forgets to check in. So take a breath, grab a warm cup of tea, and let's walk through these realities together, not in fear, but with clarity and grace. There is a truth that most of us know, but few dare to face. Life after 80 is not like what we once imagined. You may be a strong, independent person who has overcome many difficulties, but then suddenly, one day, when the dawn light shines through the window curtains, you realize that the world around you has changed. Not noisy, not dramatic, but quietly and decisively, life begins to narrow, like a lens slowly zooming into a narrower space. As a physician who has worked with thousands of elderly patients for over 30 years, I have seen more than just changes in blood pressure or heart rate. I have seen something even more profound. Changes in the eyes. A gaze that was once sparkling and intelligent now often looks far away, filled with so much that words cannot express. There are 5 harsh realities that await everyone when they reach 80, and none of them can escape them. But if you have the courage to name them, to understand them, you will not be overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness. Instead, you will find a very deep peace, the peace that comes from living consciously, slowly, but with control. The first reality is the shrinking of social connections. How many friends did you once have to call each week? How many coffee dates, hours of conversation? Now, they all seem to have dwindled, then disappeared. Not because you changed, but because the world changed. People get busy, loved ones get older, sick, some die. Children grow up, have their own lives, and there seems to be no time left to listen to the same old stories you've told 100 times. And you find yourself sitting more, talking less, hearing the ticking of the clock more clearly than the laughter of years past. I once had a patient named Mr. Bay, 84 years old, living alone after his wife passed away 3 years ago. He used to be a math teacher with a dignified voice, used to a life surrounded by people. But one day, he said to me, "Doctor, my cat has been meowing more lately. Is it feeling as sad as I am?" I was speechless. A simple sentence, but the loneliness could not be hidden. What he did not say was that he had no one to talk to, so he started to project his feelings onto a small creature, as if to seek a response from something alive. But this is not weakness. It is a survival adaptation. As our social circle shrinks, we are forced to turn our connections outward, to our memories, our pets, even our garden plants. And this, if understood correctly, does not make us older, but is a sign of an emotional soul trying to maintain some connection to the world. So what to do? The answer is not to try to pull the world back, but to find a few anchors, small but real connections. An old friend who still keeps in touch, a niece who listens, a retirement group, albeit online. When the masses retreat, the depth of the few relationships that remain becomes more precious than gold. And that's when you understand that connection isn't always about quantity, but about presence, genuine and complete. The second reality, perhaps the most disconcerting, is how once minor health issues can suddenly become huge ripples that can sweep away everything in one morning. Remember when you had a mild cold when you were younger? You'd need a few pills, sleep for a night, and be ready to go to work the next morning. But now, a cough that lasts a week, a bruise that doesn't go away for half a month, or simply skipping a meal because you're tired can send you to bed for 2 days. I once treated an old man who was a military doctor, a man who had saved hundreds of lives in the fierce battlefield. Yet, just because he slipped in the bathroom, he had to stay in the hospital for a month, then undergo physical therapy for another 3 months before he could walk again. He told me in a quiet voice, "I used to face bullets without fear, but now I am afraid every time I step into the bathroom." This statement may sound humorous, but it is a heavy sigh of truth. The body after 80 is no longer the loyal friend you once trusted. It becomes fragile, vulnerable, and sometimes betrays you when you need it most. Decreased immunity, brittle bones, rapid dehydration, metabolic disorders, all of this does not happen overnight, but accumulates like small cracks every day. And because of that, you no longer have the safety margin you had when you were young. A small mistake, such as not drinking enough water, not getting enough sleep, eating too much salt, can all lead to a series of larger problems. But you know what? This is where awareness and adjustment become the most powerful weapons. You can't stop your body from aging, but you can learn to listen to it, understand it, and care for it like you would a sick friend who needs patience. And when you listen long enough, you'll realize there are days when you need more rest than effort. There are mornings when you shouldn't force yourself to be as healthy as before, but just being stable as today is good enough. I often advise my patients to get into the habit of reading their body signals every morning. It only takes 5 minutes. Feel your heart rate, your breathing, your mental alertness, the weight of your legs, the dryness of your throat. Then you choose how to live your day in accordance with those signals. The most important thing I learned from seniors who have overcome many health challenges, not to be tough, but to be gentle with themselves. Instead of getting angry when they are no longer as strong as they used to be, they learn to adapt, like water flowing over rocks, quietly but persistently. An 87-year-old man once told me when I asked him why he remained optimistic despite having chronic arthritis, "It hurts, but as long as you can feel the pain, you are alive." The scariest thing is when you no longer feel the pain. "I still feel it, that I am still here." That statement made me appreciate the fragility of old age even more. Not to pity, but to love sincerely. Because if you can love yourself, even when your body is no longer perfect, you have a strength that is not easy to have when you are young. The strength of deep acceptance and inner peace. The third reality, though less obvious, is one that is also deeply disconcerting: the gradual disappearance from the public eye. No one tells you outright that you are no longer as important as you used to be. No one writes the words old on your forehead, but you feel it, as if the air in the room had dropped a few degrees, the feeling that you are becoming invisible. You walk into a coffee shop, and no one turns to greet you. You open your mouth at a family dinner, but sometimes you are interrupted, as if others think you have said everything. The stories you tell, once precious memories, once moving many people, now only receive a slightly confused look, or the phone in their hand lights up. No one intentionally ignores you. But it's the unintentional that hurts, because it proves that society doesn't need to hate you to forget you. They just need to be busier, faster, and prioritize what's young, new, and bright. And that's enough to leave you behind. I once spoke to a 90-year-old woman, a former journalist, who had interviewed many famous politicians. She said, "Now I say something, my grandchild smiles and says, 'You're old, it's an old story.' But that old story is history. It's real. It's flesh and blood." You see, social disconnection isn't about lack of Wi-Fi or not having a smartphone. It's about your voice not being seen as important, and that hurts more than you think. But I always believe that old age does not make you less valuable. It is just that modern society has not learned to listen to slowness. You do not need to shout loudly to get others' attention. You just need to keep your voice full of sincerity and experience. And when you share, choose the right person, the right space, you will find there are still listening ears. Although less than before, but much more deeply. I remember a medical student who came to the hospital where I worked for an internship. He was assigned to care for an elderly woman who had mild dementia. Instead of just taking her blood pressure and asking her medical history as usual, he sat down and asked her, "What did you do for a living?" The old lady hesitated, then her eyes lit up. "I taught literature for 30 years." And so the conversation lasted the entire week of her internship. She told about each generation of students, the times she graded papers all night, and even the national award-winning essay that she still kept a photocopy of. That weekend, the student told me, "I thought I came here to learn clinical skills, but I learned how to be a human being." I smiled, because that is something that no textbook teaches. Listening to the elderly is not because they need to talk, but because we need to learn. So if you're 80 and you feel like you're being left behind, don't be silent. You don't have to shout. You don't have to brace yourself. Just tell it, in the quiet voice that has seen the best years of your life. Tell it to someone who will listen. And if no one will listen, tell it to yourself. Write it down. Record it. It's not a will, it's a living gift for anyone who is calm enough to open it and read it with their heart. There's one thing few people tell you honestly when you hit 80. The world around you stops expanding and starts shrinking little by little. Not loudly, not dramatically, but surely, like a circle that slowly but inexorably shrinks. You may have been someone who loved going out, visiting friends, going to temples, walking in parks, stopping by the familiar coffee shop on the corner. But then suddenly, you find that all of these things have become a bit annoying, a bit far, a bit inconvenient. Not because you're lazy, but because every step, every move, seems to consume more energy than before. The familiar shop has closed, the acquaintances have moved, or are weaker than you. The streets are more crowded, noisier, more hurried, and you find yourself like a person out of tune in a different melody. I used to take care of an 86-year-old woman who lived in a small house in the middle of the city. Every morning, she would walk around the park near her house, not for exercise, but just to look at the trees. One day she told me, "The tree is as old as I am, but at least it is still standing there, not moving." It's not a sad statement. It's an acknowledgement that her world has gotten smaller, but not empty. She still walks, but not for excitement, but for connection. Not necessarily new destinations, just a familiar place that's still there, enough to remind you that you're still alive, still connected, still not completely abandoned. But not everyone can keep that habit. For many older people, the narrowing of the outside world gradually leads to the closing of the inner mind, and that is the most dangerous thing. You start to delay leaving the house. Then you find that today is a little hot, tomorrow is a little rainy, the day after that, your feet hurt a little. And a month goes by, and you suddenly realize that you have not stepped out of the house. There is a kind of loneliness that comes not from a lack of people around you, but from refusing to step out of your comfort zone for too long. The world out there, though changed, is still full of precious things, if you are willing to open your heart again. I often give my older patients a seemingly small piece of advice. Don't let a day go by without letting some natural light touch your skin. That could be opening a window, sitting on the porch, or taking a walk around the house. That light is more than just vitamin D. It's living proof that you still belong in this world. You don't have to go back to the same activities you used to do. Age and health change. But you can rebuild a world that's manageable, fulfilling, and still meaningful. It might mean calling an old friend instead of waiting for them to call. It might mean joining an online book group or learning something as small as watercolor painting. It doesn't matter how good you are, it just means you're interested. An old lady once shared with me that after losing her husband, she took a baking class via Zoom. When I asked her why, she said, "I don't eat bread, I have diabetes, but I like the smell of baking bread. It reminds me of the 60s, when my husband and I made bread together in the small kitchen we rented in Dalat." You see, it wasn't the cake that made her happy, but the memory that was awakened, and her inner world brightened again, even as the outer world was shrinking. So don't let yourself disappear because of physical limitations. If one path closes, open another one, in your soul, in your memory. in your spiritual connection with others. And if one day you feel too tired to do something, please remind yourself, as long as there is one kind thought in my mind, I am still living fully. Then one day, when you've gotten used to the slow, quiet pace of life, and it seems to have stabilized, suddenly your body, something you once understood so well, once grasped every feeling so easily, starts to become unpredictable. One day you wake up feeling refreshed and invigorated like an early spring morning. Your hands are nimble, your feet are light, your memory is as clear as when you were 60. But the next day, for no apparent reason, you feel sore, your mind is hazy, and the glass of water on the table feels heavy to pick up. What hurts most for many seniors is not the frailty, but the instability of their own bodies. You used to think you knew it, that you could predict what would happen, but now you don't. Waking up every morning is a gamble. Today you're strong, tomorrow you might lose your balance when you get out of a chair. One old man I treated said through tears, "I used to carry both my sons up the hill, and now I have to struggle to hold the TV remote." That feeling, the feeling of being betrayed by your own body, is actually more mentally devastating than physical pain. But there is another truth that I always remind my patients. Your body changes, but how you respond to the change determines how you live. You can't control your legs from getting weaker, but you can learn to stand stronger. You can't prevent sudden dizziness, but you can arrange your life to avoid falls, to prevent them before they happen. I once witnessed an 82-year-old woman who lived alone redesign her home as a survival strategy. Lower chairs, extra handrails in the kitchen, no more slippery rugs on the floor, night lights by the bed. "I don't live to defy aging," she said. "I live to adapt to it." And it is these adaptations that have helped her continue to live proactively and with dignity. Flexibility is no longer in the body, but in the mind. When you are willing to adjust your habits, accept a slower pace of life, listen to your body more closely, you are taking back control, not through strength, but through intelligence and patience. Plus, you don't have to fight it alone. This is a great time to relearn a skill that's been lost in the modern world, the art of asking for help. Not as a sign of weakness, but as a way to build human connection. When you tell someone you need them, you're often helping them feel needed and included, and that's valuable for both of you. I once advised a very strong-willed old man, "You can still be the pillar of the family, but let your children and grandchildren be your pillars for once. Let them learn to love through action." And when he accepted to let his son hold his hand as he walked down the stairs, he opened a new bond between the two generations. No longer a one-way relationship as before, but a parallel of experience and care. Your body may not be as reliable as it once was, but if you listen to it, treat it with patience and understanding, you are still in control of a world that is slowing down around you. You are not a loser in the battle of aging. You are the only one who understands each stage of your life and chooses to live it meaningfully. Once you've gone through the travails of old age, from the shrinking of your social world, to the quiet betrayals of your body, to the feeling of fading into obscurity, you may begin to wonder, what do I have left? The question is not simple, but it is not a pessimistic one. It is a call from deep within, when you begin to look at yourself not through a mirror, but through your memories and your inner self. And you realize, while everything else is shrinking, there is one thing that is expanding more than ever, that is your inner vision. An old lady I used to travel with, Mrs. Two, now 93 years old, once shared something that I will always remember. "The older I get, the clearer I see. Not with my eyes. My eyes are dim, but with my heart. Things that I thought were important when I was young now turn out to be nothing. And the little things that I overlooked back then are now more precious than gold." She then told about the time she had an argument with her husband over a slice of ham that was cut thicker than usual. "I was so angry at that time, thinking he was heartless. Now that I think about it, it's funny. I should have thanked him for remembering to cut the ham for me. Now that he's gone, no matter how thick or thin the ham is cut, there's no one left to eat it with." That story not only made me speechless, but also made me understand. Growing old is not about losing, but about understanding more deeply what we once had. And if you have lived to this age, you have a huge treasure. Memories, lessons, emotions, experiences, things that youth can never buy, even if they had the whole world. But unfortunately, society often ignores this treasure. The young are busy running ahead, while the old are asked to sit back. But you don't have to sit there in silence. Tell it, write it, record it, draw it. Don't think your story is old news. In an age where people are only chasing after the new, you are the one who keeps the flame of tradition, humanity, and depth. Things that the modern world is gradually losing. I once encouraged an 88-year-old man who lived alone and had little social interaction to start keeping a diary every day. At first he laughed. "Who am I writing for? I'm old. I have nothing to write about." But then a month later, he called me in. Opening a thick notebook, he said, "I write for myself, to remember who I used to be, and so that when I no longer remember, I will still have something to remind me." That notebook has now been printed into a book by his daughter. Not to sell, but to give to his grandchildren, as a spiritual gift. Each page is a part of his soul, thoughts, stories, philosophies distilled after nearly a century of being human. You see, turning 80 is not the end, but a chapter of transformation. If you are still alive, you can still leave a mark. It doesn't have to be big. Sometimes a good morning greeting, a handshake, an old story told in a slow voice can also warm a young heart. Old age, more than ever, is the time for you to become a silent teacher. You no longer need to teach with loud words, but just live gently, tolerantly, step by step. Enough for your children and grandchildren to learn lessons about patience, sacrifice, and faith and kindness. There is one thing that modern science has finally acknowledged after decades of research. People do not live by longevity, but by purpose. You can live to be 100 years old, but if each day is just a repetition of silence, waiting, passing, then that time is no different from a clock that runs out of battery and keeps ticking meaninglessly. I have met many old people who are physically strong, but withered in spirit. Just as I have witnessed people over 90 years old, walking slowly, with dim eyes and hearing, but with a strange light in their eyes, because they still have a reason to live, however small. One of the most poignant examples I have ever seen is that of Mr. Tran Van Phuc, 92 years old, who lives in a rural area in central Vietnam. He used to be a primary school teacher, and after retiring, he lived with his youngest son. When his wife died and his friends gradually died, he began to feel like a shadow. But instead of letting his sadness consume him, he decided to sit at the entrance of the village, on an old stone bench, every afternoon and tell stories to the children. At first, there were only 2 children, then 3, then 5, then a dozen. They called him the grandfather of the neighborhood. And every day he was tired, the children would come knocking on his door. When I asked him, "Are you happy?" he just smiled. "I don't have many days left, but every day I leave something behind, so I'm not dead yet." Just one sentence made me, a doctor who has witnessed thousands of births and deaths, sit silently for a long time. Your purpose in life after 80 doesn't have to be anything grand. You don't have to teach, write a book, or engage in social activities. It can be as simple as taking care of an orchid, cooking a meal for your children and grandchildren, writing a handwritten letter to an old friend, or praying every morning for the peace of your family. Unfortunately, many people, when they find themselves no longer productive, no longer needed, begin to believe that they are useless. This is a dangerous mistake, because true value lies not in how much you do, but in how your presence makes others feel. I once told a paraplegic patient, "You may not be able to walk anymore, but your eyes still inspire people. The way you remain silent and calm, the way you smile despite the pain, all of these teach people something about resilience. You are a living testimony to endurance, to loss, to love, to the seemingly small things that are deeper than the ocean. Believe that as long as you are here, you can still give. It could be a gentle word to the maid. It could be a kind look to a grandchild. It could be a short poem that you handwrite and ask someone else to read. We live in an age where young people are constantly searching for meaning, success, breakthroughs. But sometimes, what they need most is an old person who knows how to sit still and listen. No judgment, no comparison, just presence, tolerance, the understanding that only a lifetime can accumulate. If you are 80 or older, don't ask yourself, "What can I contribute?" Ask, "How can I be present today?" And you will see that the meaning is not in the action, but in the spirit. As long as your spirit is still warm, even if your body is weak, you can still warm a small world around you. Living a full life after 80 requires more than just physical health or purpose. It also requires the most important mental ability of all, the ability to cope with loss. This is not something that can be fully taught in books or modern medicine, but rather a skill that can be learned bit by bit along the way. After 80 years of living, you have certainly experienced at least a few major losses. It could be the passing of a spouse, a child, an old friend, a beloved neighbor. It could be the broken dreams, an unfulfilled promise, or simply the eyes of a loved one no longer watching you as they used to. And the hardest part of old age is that losses are no longer sudden, but become a recurring part of the daily rhythm of life. I once asked an 87-year-old woman, "Are you used to seeing your loved ones go?" She answered very slowly but firmly, "No one gets used to it. You just have to learn how to let the sadness not eat away at you." That is the truth. Every loss in old age is a protective shell removed, and the later you get, the more naked you are to life. You are forced to face the reality that there is no one in front of you, only you and your shadow behind you. But it is in that nakedness that you have the opportunity to see most clearly what is truly precious. I will always remember the story of the Mr. Kwong, an 84-year-old man living in Dalat. His wife died at the age of 78 after a stroke. He was so desperate that he did not talk to anyone for 6 months. He said, "I opened my eyes and there was no one lying next to me, no sound of boiling water in the morning, no one asking what to eat today. The house was big but cold like a cave." But then one day, he found a piece of paper with his wife's instructions. "If I go first, remember to water my orchids. They are afraid of the midday sun." Just that one line made him cry. And from that day on, he started watering his orchids. Then he cleaned every corner of the house. Then he turned on the radio again. Then he cooked a simple meal for himself. He didn't need anyone to comfort him. It was the love of the deceased that taught him how to live on. You see, getting over loss is not about forgetting. It's about accepting the presence of another love. The person you lost may no longer be with you, but the love you received from them, the memories you shared with them, are still there. And you can keep them in the way you live each day. You can tell their stories to your grandchildren. You can keep up the same old routines you did together. You can talk to them, even if only in your mind. Because love doesn't need to be present to exist. It just needs to be kept. And if one day you feel your heart is tired, please remember, every wrinkle on your face is a map of memories. You don't grow old because of time, but because you have loved enough, hurt deeply enough, lived truly enough. Allow yourself to be sad, but don't allow yourself to be swallowed up by sadness. Old age cannot prevent you from losing, but it gives you the choice of how to face it. With understanding, with steadfastness, with a belief that what you once loved will never truly be gone. And if you're still here, still hearing, still reading, still feeling these words, then you're still alive. And that, in itself, is proof that you're stronger than any loss you've ever experienced. You know, reaching 80 is not the end of the road, it's a summit. You've climbed through decades of joy, heartbreak, resilience, and transformation. And now you get to see life from a view no younger soul could truly understand. Yes, things change. Your body slows down. The phone rings less. Memories sometimes speak louder than voices in the room. But in all of this, there's something sacred, wisdom that can't be Googled. a calmness that doesn't come from having all the answers, but from letting go of needing them. At Calm Voice Wellness, we believe aging isn't about fading away. It's about shining differently. If something in today's video touched your heart, share it. Leave a comment below. Maybe your story becomes someone else's comfort. And remember, you're still here. You still matter. And your story? It's not done yet. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and stay connected.